Eric Ralls shows how environmental storytelling can bring nature closer. Environmental issues can feel distant when presented only through charts, technical terms, or warnings. Eric Ralls has spent much of his career working from a different starting point. His work in digital media, science communication, and nature-focused technology reflects a clear idea. People care more about nature when they can understand it and see where they fit. Ralls is known for building platforms that make science and nature easier to reach. His career includes Cosmoverse, Red Orbit, Earth.com, PlantSnap, and EarthSnap. Across those projects, he has looked for ways to turn curiosity into learning. That approach places environmental storytelling at the center of his work. For Ralls, the story is not a replacement for science. It is often the bridge that helps readers understand why science matters in daily life. Why stories inspire action. People rarely remember information because it was presented in the largest quantity. They remember it because it connected with something they already know, saw, or felt. A story about a plant growing through a sidewalk can open the door to adaptation. A report about bird migration can help readers think about seasons, habitats, and the timing of ecosystems. That is why storytelling matters in environmental journalism. It gives facts a shape readers can follow. It also allows scientific discovery to move beyond laboratories and journals and into kitchens, classrooms, trails, and community spaces. Ralls has built much of his work around that kind of access. His early platform Cosmoverse helped people explore space and astronomy through digital content. Red Orbit expanded that interest into science, technology, health, and space. Earth.com later brought attention closer to home by focusing on the planet, biodiversity, and environmental news. Each step reflects a similar belief. When information is presented clearly, people are more likely to stay curious. Making science relatable. Science communication often asks writers and publishers to balance accuracy with readability. If the writing becomes too simple, it can lose meaning. If it becomes too technical, it can lose readers. Ralls' work points toward a middle path. Complex subjects can be explained in plain language without removing the science behind them. A reader does not need to be a biologist to appreciate pollination. A student does not need advanced training to understand why species identification matters. That kind of plain language does more than make content easier to read. It invites readers into the subject. It tells them that science is not only for specialists. It is also a way to pay attention. This is where nature education becomes practical. A person who learns the name of a tree, insect, or bird may begin asking better questions. What does it need to survive? What role does it play? How does it change through the year? Those questions can lead to deeper learning without forcing a formal lesson. Bringing nature closer to everyday life. Modern life separates people from the systems that support them. Food arrives packaged. Weather appears as a phone alert. Animals are seen through screens before they are seen in their habitats. Environmental storytelling can help close that distance. Ralls' work with PlantSnap and EarthSnap speaks to this point. PlantSnap gave users a way to identify plants with a mobile device. EarthSnap broadened that idea by helping users identify living things across the natural world. The value is not only in the identification. The larger value is in the moment that follows. A person sees something. The person asks what it is. The answer creates a new connection. That process can make ordinary places feel more alive. A backyard becomes a small ecosystem. A walk to school becomes a chance to notice changing leaves. A family hike becomes a lesson in biodiversity. None of those moments require a lecture. They require attention, and storytelling can help sustain that attention. This matters because environmental awareness often begins locally. People may care more about global issues when they first understand the creek near their home, the pollinators in their garden, or the trees that shade their neighborhood. Local observation gives larger themes a personal foundation. Connecting local experiences with global themes. One strength of environmental storytelling is its ability to move between the small and the large. A single species can lead to a discussion about habitat. A neighborhood heat island can lead to a discussion about urban planning. A story about soil can connect to food systems, water, and climate. Ralls has worked in spaces where those connections are central. Earth.com publishes daily content on nature, science, and environmental developments. That kind of publishing can help readers see patterns across many subjects. A headline about oceans may connect with another about wildlife. A story about forests may connect with new research on air, water, or human health. The goal is not to overwhelm readers with everything at once. The goal is to build understanding over time. Good environmental journalism gives readers enough context to keep learning. It shows that ecosystems are not separate from human life. They shape where people live, what they eat, how they travel, and what future generations inherit. The role of environmental journalism carries a difficult responsibility. It must inform readers without turning every story into alarm. It must explain risk without using fear as the only tool. It must also respect uncertainty when research is still developing. That balance is important. Sensational writing may attract attention for a moment, but it can also leave readers tired or distrustful. Careful reporting builds something more durable. It helps readers understand what is known, what is still being studied, and why a topic deserves attention. Ralls' work in publishing sits within this need for steady information. Through Earth.com and related platforms, he has focused on making environmental topics accessible to general readers. The subject matter may range from species and ecosystems to new discoveries in technology. The editorial challenge remains the same. Readers need clarity. Clear environmental journalism can also support better public engagement. A person cannot think carefully about conservation if the subject feels too confusing to approach. A reader cannot evaluate new environmental technology if the terms are never explained. Journalism can create the first layer of understanding that makes deeper engagement possible. Education without division. Environmental topics can quickly become polarized when they are framed only through politics. The strongest education begins elsewhere. It begins with observation, evidence, and shared curiosity. A story about a river can focus on water quality, wildlife, recreation, and community history. A story about a forest can explain species, soil, weather, and the experience of walking under shade. These angles do not require readers to enter the subject through conflict. They allow people to begin with what they can see and understand. This approach fits the broader value of science communication. It gives readers useful information without asking them to accept a slogan. It respects their ability to think. It also gives educators and journalists room to explain why stewardship matters in practical terms. Building a culture of lifelong curiosity is one of the most useful outcomes of nature education. It does not end with one article, one app, or one classroom lesson. It grows through repeated encounters with the world. Ralls' career shows an interest in building tools and platforms that support those encounters. From space content to biodiversity platforms, his work has returned to the same human behavior. People want to know what they are looking at. They want context. They want a reason to keep paying attention. Environmental storytelling can meet that need. It can introduce readers to a species they have never noticed. It can explain a research finding in a way that feels useful. It can show how a small discovery belongs to a larger story about life on Earth. For future generations, this kind of curiosity matters. Children who learn to observe nature may become adults who ask informed questions. Communities that value science communication may make more thoughtful decisions about land, water, and development. Readers who understand biodiversity may be more prepared to recognize why it matters. The next story starts outside. Eric Ralls has built a career around making science and nature easier for people to approach. His work suggests that environmental education does not always begin with a formal lesson. Sometimes it begins with a clear article, a useful digital tool, or a small question asked during a walk. That is the quiet power of environmental storytelling. It helps people notice what is already around them. It brings science into ordinary life. It gives readers a reason to care, not through pressure, but through understanding. In a time when information moves quickly, that kind of steady communication has value. It can help readers slow down, look closer, and continue learning. For Ralls, the work of connecting people with nature is not only about technology or publishing. It is about helping people recognize that the natural world is close enough to study, respect, and remember.